Take it, Rich. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 7th session of Council for 2022. I am looking for an approval of the agenda, please.
So
Councillor Miller,
move the approval of the agenda.
seconded by Deputy Mayor Scryer. On the question, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Have a couple little notes here this evening. The National Emergency Alert System, Alert Ready, will be tested in New Brunswick tomorrow morning. The system, which is designed to deliver critical and potentially life-saving alerts, will be tested at 10:55 a.m. when an alarm will sound on wireless devices, televisions, and radios. Following the alarm, a message will remind people that is only a test, not an actual emergency. So please be prepared for the Alert Ready test tomorrow morning at 5 to 11. I'd like to bring to your attention that KVHS are the provincial Reach for the Top champions. This is the 9th time in a row, and they have actually won 16 out of 17 provincial championships. So congratulations to Coach Jason Thorne and his Dynamite team. Also, tomorrow we are celebrating a cleaner greener in Quispamsis. We will be picking up garbage and debris from around the town streets, so I encourage all residents to keep your neighborhood clean by picking up any debris that you might find, and we certainly appreciate your contribution and your help to that. Last week I was able to work with Miss Tilley's class, grade 4 class, and they cleaned up the Ritchie Lake beach area, so we thank them for doing that. So I'm going to call upon Councillor Miller for the treaty acknowledgement and moment of reflection.
Thank you, Your Worship. We would like to respectfully acknowledge that Quispamsis exists on the traditional territory of the Wolastoqiyik, Maliseet, and Micmac people whose ancestors, along with the Passamaquoddy tribes, signed peace and friendship treaties with the British Crown in the 1700s. We would like to take this moment to pay respect to the elders, past and present, and the descendants of this traditional territory. We would also like to take this moment to reflect upon our solidarity and support for the people of Ukraine, acknowledging that Canada has the third largest Ukrainian population in the world behind Ukraine itself and Russia. And may we remind ourselves of the important work we have before us tonight. May we make good decisions without prejudice or bias and always in the best interest of our community, which we are here to serve.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. I am looking for a disclosure of interests. Mr. Loche, Director of Engineering and Works.
Your Worship, 8A, please. I'll be leaving.
Thank you, Mr. Loche. Presentations. This evening we have MDB, Town Quispamsis, Strategic Plan, final presentation. And remotely this evening we have joining us Trudy Parsons, Managing Director, Deloitte Canada, and Clark Hoskin, Senior Manager, Deloitte Canada, formerly MDB Insight. Welcome, Trudy and Clark. We're certainly happy to see you this evening. And I am going to ask you to go right into your presentation.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and thank you to all of Council for having us here this evening. It's actually our last presentation, so we are very thankful for the opportunity to have worked with the town and its council and management and staff and with the community. So we really appreciate the opportunity to present the final presentation for the strategy this evening. Clark, next slide, please. So we're just going to do a brief walkthrough of the overview of the project itself. Do a quick reminder of the stakeholder feedback, and then of course we'll dive into the actual strategic plan components. So as I mentioned, we've approached the completion of the project, and on behalf of myself and Clark and all of our team, we'd like to offer congratulations to the town of Quispamsis for persevering through this process. It's, we started back, as you may recall, in the fall of 2021, and there has been, lots of opportunity to connect and to dialogue, to gain input and insight, both from council management and the community at large. And it's the result of all of that consultation and collaboration that has brought us to this point in the project this evening. So this is the final presentation. And as we leave you this evening, we certainly want you to recognize that we are only ever a phone call away should you have any further questions relating to the strategy or any of the recommendations. Next slide, please, Clark. So as you will recall, an important element of this work was ensuring that we were giving people the opportunity to contribute. That was done both through internal conversation with council, management, staff, and externally through the community, the residents and businesses, a further dive or deeper conversation took place with 14 community stakeholders that really had a good perspective to share with regards to the town, where it is today, where it is going to be going, and making sure that we were recognizing and identifying opportunities as well as challenges that needed consideration. Next, Clark, please. And again. So again, council and management will recall that we have had the opportunity for numerous conversations exploring the various elements of the strategic plan to ensure that it truly reflected the vision, the insight, the perspectives, and the desires of both the municipality as well as the community. So with regards to the mission statement for the town of Quispamsis, this is the statement in which we landed. Council, management, and staff collectively provide community-focused service excellence and a forward-thinking commitment to sustainable growth, responsible governance, and engaged, connected residents. Next, Clark. For the vision, which is a vision for the town in a broader, through a broader lens, Quispamsis is proud to be a vibrant, active community surrounded by natural beauty, offering a quality of life driven by exceptional services, amenities, and programs. Next, Clark. Again, you will recall that, from the early conversations, we talked about the guiding principles, those being really the measuring stick or the meter by which we will make decisions and inform conversations. And so the guiding principles for the town, you will see here that there were a series of 5 that resulted through over the life cycle of the project. Transparency and integrity, informed decision-making, equity and inclusion, service excellence, and fiscal responsibility. Each of these have a definition to help ensure common understanding of what the intent of those particular guiding principles are. And these are something that can be applied within council chambers and certainly within the walls of the municipality, as well as through interaction and communication with the public. Next, Clark. And getting into the strategic themes, you will recall that there were 4 sort of overarching themes that had been identified, those being infrastructure management, commitment to community, economic development, and capacity building. And of course, within each of those themes, we have identified a series of goals and objectives. The goal for infrastructure management reflects the town's commitment to ensure fiscal and operational integrity while developing responsible plans to address climate change, water service expansion, recreation, and active transportation. And to the right of that goal statement, you will see a series of 4 specific actions or initiatives that will help guide the advancement of this particular goal through implementation and consideration within the municipal management and staff that perform the day-to-day operations within the municipality. And moving on to the second one, we have our commitment to community. The goal of Quispamsis demonstrates its commitment to be to the community by enhancing citizen engagement, building upon the natural strengths of the area, and ensuring policies and bylaws are relevant. Again, a series of 4 actions or initiatives that will be implemented over the life of the strategy to ensure that this goal is advanced. Economic development. Again, the town endeavors to be recognized as an excellent place to invest due to a positive business environment and regional collaboration to diversify the economy. Here you will note that there are 3 specific initiatives that have been identified, all directed towards advancing the goal of economic development. And last, but certainly not least, is capacity building. So this focuses on the town ensuring it is ready for growth by improving internal communications, enhancing interdepartmental cooperation, implementing efficiencies, and conducting capacity reviews. And again, a series of 3 specific initiatives that we have talked about, which will help to advance the goal of capacity building. And moving to the next slide is the consideration of the action plan. And so, as you know, a community strategic plan is an influencing, overarching vision and action plan that informs and guides both the decisions of council and the actions of municipality as an entity. It's one component, however, and it is important to recognize the interaction and interrelationship between the strategic plan and all the other plans and strategies that the municipality may be developing over time to help guide and to advance the municipality and the community. It serves to inform staff and to articulate council's objectives, council's priorities within the municipality itself, which of course then further informs the departmental business plans and the action plans within each of those departments to ensure that the services, the priorities are actually being advanced and that the capacity and capability of the municipality is being supported. And when we look at implementation, this is certainly something that is driven by the application or the integration of the strategic plan into the day-to-day operations of the municipality. However, we also recognize that outside of the strategic plan, there will be new initiatives, there will be changing circumstances, there may be new priorities that emerge over the life of the strategy. And so as part of this, you may recall one of the tools that we had shared in previous meetings was a decision tree. And that is just an example of a tool that may be used by the town to help to further inform and identify the relevance of a new initiative or action that may emerge over time, and how that particularly aligns within this strategic plan, informing how, when, and if that particular action should move forward, in the shorter to medium term. And all of this accumulates with the performance measurement. So it's very important that as part of a strategic plan, that there is a recognition that the plan does need to be reviewed and perhaps revised. We encourage you on an annual basis to do a review of the plan, to check to see if circumstances or situations in the community have changed, if there are things that may be influencing what the priorities need to be, and then adjusting the strategy to reflect perhaps some of those more urgent needs that the community has. And never has that been more evident than living within a municipality in the past couple of years. You know, municipal governments, councils have been challenged to be adaptive to, you know, the implications and the impacts of COVID-19 as an example. And so, you know, being able to review the strategy, identify if there's opportunities for, you know, continuing to implement as designed, or if there is a need to perhaps reevaluate to adjust to changing times. And then looking at how we are doing. So, you know, have we achieved what we've set out to achieve as a result of what's documented in the strategy? Are there things that we need to be considering? And how do we report that back to our residents and to our community? So there are a number of ways of which, of course, that can be done outside of the scope of this project, but we certainly have informed on the performance measurement considerations that may be applied. And I think the last slide, Clark. Yes, so I will pause there through you, your worship, and certainly happy to answer any questions. And upon which we'll then offer again our sincere thanks to council, to management, and to the community for providing us the opportunity to play a role in you achieving this very important milestone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Trudy. Certainly, it's a very well-done strategic plan that now council and staff can sort of go through and decide what the priorities are and so forth. So I'm going to go to Councillor Olson. Councillor Olson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank Ms. Parsons and Mr. Huskin for a very well-prepared plan after many meetings and lots of ideas, and I think that they gathered the intentions of council and staff to condense it all into these 20 slides that we have before us this evening. So it's something that we recognized some time ago that was needed in our community, and now we have something to follow, and I'd like to thank them very much for their professionalism in presenting it to council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. Councillor Thompson, please.
I was just going to make a motion, Your Worship. I move that council accept NDB Insight's proposed strategic plan as presented by MDB Insight as Quispamsis' new strategic plan to be used as a living document to assist council and staff when acting on specific activities and programs, and make decisions to ensure that they are based on whether there is value in relation to the community strategic plan or subordinate municipal plans. And I would like to thank Ms. Parsons and Mr. Hoskin for all the work that they have done.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Schreier. On the question. Deputy Mayor Schreier, please.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment, and I'd like to again thank everybody involved, especially the residents of Quispamsis that took the time to fill out surveys, and the staff at Quispamsis that took the time as well. So, and of course, the council and all the time that's been put in this. One of the biggest takeaways for me on this is that, yes, we do have the guiding principles, but over the last few years that we have certainly learned that things change quickly, can change quickly, and that we have to be flexible and nimble. And, you know, as the world tries to get back to normal after COVID, and we don't know what the future is going to bring, we have to have the flexibility within our plan to move. You look at what's happening in housing these days, and you know, in the commercial developments, and things have just taken a different direction. So I'm very thankful that you pointed that out regarding that. You know, the guiding principles need to be addressed every year and how we might have to change on the fly. So thank you very much. I appreciate all your work you did for us.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Scryer. Councillor Bigger, please.
Thank you, Worship. And yeah, I would just echo the same comments that have been raised by Councillor Olson and Deputy Mayor Scryer. I just want to say thank you very much to Ms. Parsons and Mr. Hoskin and MDB for the great work. I really appreciate the nimbleness with which you guys have conducted yourselves, and I don't know, maybe we've driven you a little crazy with all the back and forth trying to get it right. But one of the things I've taken some confidence in sort of about, or comfort in knowing that we made the right choice to work with you guys, is I really love the collaborative nature of how this is done. There seems to be a real effort to avoid any kind of top-down strategy for how this has come together, but rather get input across all strata of our town, right from residents through different strata of staff, and of course here on council and the mayor. And I just think that helps us to really create a really excellent strategy and guideposts to help sort of direct us along with some very important initiatives. And as the deputy mayor alludes to, things change quickly in this time, in this day and age. But it's good to have some consistency and direction. And so thank you very much for all your help with this. And I'm looking forward to results for our town from this exercise. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bigger. And again, thank you, Ms. Parsons and Mr. Hoskin. Certainly it's a comprehensive plan, and it's going to be the overriding guiding force, I guess, over the asset management, fiscal responsibility, active transportation, master transportation. So this is going to be the umbrella that is going to guide us in all the decisions that we make moving forward. So thank you for all that you've done in this, and thank you to staff. I know that it's been a lot of work for staff, and we certainly appreciate all the input that you have given to Ms. Parsons and to Mr. Hoskins. So thank you for that to staff. And we have a motion on the table. It was moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Scryer on the question. Please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Ms. Parsons, Mr. Hoskin, thank you for being here with us this evening. And certainly you are only a phone call away, and we will be happy to contact you if need be. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Good night.
Thank you.
Item 5B, Town of Quispamsis 2021 Financial Audit Presentation. Teed Saunders Doyle and Mr. Logan, if you wouldn't mind coming to the podium. Thank you for being here this evening. Welcome.
I don't know if that's, there we go. I usually don't need a microphone, so. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here this evening to review a high overview of the audited financial statements. We did meet with the Finance Committee a couple of weeks ago and went through them in a fair bit of detail. So this evening, my presentation will be much shorter. So basically, our job as the town auditors is to come in. We usually come in February for about a week, and we're also here for a couple of days in December, and to perform audit tests to make sure that the town's internal financial records are in compliance with Canadian public sector accounting standards, which is the standards that all municipalities and governments in Canada follow. And once we've conducted our audit, grilled the staff, we issue what we call our independent auditor's report. And that opinion is that we did find that the financial records were in compliance with public sector accounting standards. So that's what we call a clean audit report for the town. One thing of note, you'll see there on the screen, so that would be the consolidated statement of operations. So we use the word consolidated there because under public sector accounting standards, we are required to put a proportional amount of the fire, police, and library, roughly 60% of their results are included in these financial statements, and 40% would be in the town of Rossay's financial statements. So that's why we have, we use that phrase of consolidated. So this year in 2021, the statement of operations, this is the 12 months worth of activity. You can see total revenue this year was at $33,264,000. About 75% of that would be the warrant of assessment, which was at $24,853,000 this year. Up last year, you were at $24,180,000. You'll see there too, there's a line item there called conditional government transfers of $3.269 million. So that's money that the town receives from the government for things like capital infrastructure. One of the big ones this year would have been the Safe Restart Fund. That was about $980,000. I should probably keep my glasses on. There was the Canada Community Building Fund of $1.6 million, so that would have gone towards infrastructure upgrades. One of the things about public sector accounting standards is that when you do receive these grants, even if it is for capital, it still shows up as revenue on that statement of operations. So the expenditures are also listed there. So this year, total expenditures for the town were at $29,597,000. You can see their budget was $29,976,000, so it was slightly under budget on the expenditure side. Community services was up this year by about $1 million over last year. Reason for that would be in 2020, the Qplex was shut down for a good chunk of the year, and in 2021 it was open a little more often. So with expenses, they're at $29,597,000. That puts the surplus at $3,666,678. So that would basically just be those expenses being taken off from your total revenue. And it should be noted that, so as I had mentioned, the reason I kind of pointed out the conditional government transfers is because we do show those as revenue in these statements. That's why you sort of see that surplus this year. A big reason there's a surplus of 3.6 is because those grants are treated as revenue in the year you get them. You actually, if you're building roads with those grants, those roads are expensed over a number of years, 20, 25 years. So the revenue doesn't always match up with the expense. As far as the internal funding surplus goes, so when you set your property tax warrant, you look at your inflows, you look at your outflows. And so for this year in your general fund, the funding surplus was $62,068. And in your utility fund, it was $2,092. So that just shows what you had budgeted for, money that came in and the money that went out. So at the end of the year, you can see the accumulated surplus within the town was at $95,850,000. And really what that is, if we can just go to the next page. Yeah, so in your statement of financial position, that $95 million, what that is, it's the excess of your assets over your liabilities. So the largest asset within the town would be your, what we call tangible capital assets. So that includes things, roads and streets, buildings, wastewater, sewer. So those are the biggest component. And you can see up there, they're on the books, what we call net book value, about $112 million. So that surplus is really, it's really the capital, the infrastructure within the town. Some of the other items to note on there would be your long-term debt. So what we do too as part of our audit, we look at your debt service ratio, which is basically the percentage that you spend on principal repayments and interest as a percentage of your total budget. And it's an important number. It kind of tells us where you are in terms of debt and the ability to service that debt. So within the general fund, that debt service ratio was at 8.1%, which is good. The ceiling on debt service ratio is about 20%. If you get up into that neighborhood, you'd start looking at maybe that you're kind of borrowing and that the debt servicing is getting a little high. But at 8.1%, you're well under that limit. And in the utility fund, that same percentage was at 25.1%. In the utility fund, the ceiling or the upper limit is 50%. So again, you're well within that limit. Last year, you were 30.6%. So that's just a good barometer just to, with respect to borrowing, and making sure that as a percentage of your total budget that the borrowing doesn't get too high. As far as the capital assets go, there was $8.7 million in additions this year. 4.2 million of that was on streets and roads. Another 1.9 million was on building infrastructure. Meehan's Cove Beach House was a big project in 2021. And also of note, the town also has, it's page 26, but I'll just make a quick note of it. It's your operating and capital reserves. So within the town's books, you do have general operating reserve, general capital reserve, utility operating, and utility capital. So those are reserve funds that on an annual basis, if you do have some surplus, you can transfer to those reserves for future either operating shortfalls or capital. So at the end of this year, the town had $7.193 million in reserves. So that was an increase of $2.4 million over last year. So in the largest would be in your capital reserve fund. So your general capital reserve, you have $2.976 million. Utility capital, $2.658. So that's money that'll be available down the road for capital projects within those categories. So you don't have to, saves the borrowing. As far as the financial statements go, that's really my presentation. A comment on the audit, it went very well. We didn't really find anything that would have led us to, in terms of your internal controls, to issue management letter points. We've done the audit for a number of years, so over the years when we have issued points, they've been taken into consideration, so it runs very well, and I'd like to thank Krista and her staff because they make it a little bit easier for us when we come in to do the audit, that we're actually auditing and we're not doing all the accounting. So that makes it a bit easier for us, for sure. So if anybody has any questions, we're certainly happy to answer those.
Thank you, Mr. Logan. I will go to the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Mr. Logan. My question is regarding the debt service. And I can remember when Quispamsis was a lot higher for the capital, sort of sitting around 18%. So it's come down significantly over the years, which is a good thing. But I'm wondering about utility. If you could talk a little bit about that, why that debt service figure would be so much higher than capital.
Yeah, it's
and
just
how you sort of manage that going forward.
Yeah, it's the reason the percentage number is so much higher is it's just the budget's so much smaller than the general fund. So the utility fund has a much smaller budget when you compare it to the general fund. And with utility, just the nature of it, it's very capital intensive. So when you're doing water and sewer, and you tend to have to borrow a fair bit to fund those types of projects. So that's why when we talk about the cap, it's 50% versus 20% of your general fund. Okay. But yeah, 25 is certainly, it's well within the range, so, yep.
And just a follow-up question, if I may, Your Worship. Could I just have your ideas or comments on the inflation rate and what's going on and how you think it's going to affect budgets going forward?
Well, I'm not an economist, so I can't really, well, obviously everything is going to get a little more expensive. I mean, fuel, if you're talking about the municipality, you think about snow plowing and filling the trucks. And so, yeah, things are going to get more expensive. So I think budgets will have to be increased or cut in other areas, I guess. But yeah, it's going to be, it'll trickle into just about everything.
Thank you. Anyone else have a question for Mr. Logan? I don't see any. So we're finished, I guess.
Okay.
With your presentation, but I would like to say thank you very much, Mr. Logan. Certainly, I guess we do have a a comment here from the Chair of the Finance Committee before I speak. Go ahead, Councillor Miller.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. I think I was going exactly where you were going, that I want to thank Mr. Logan, but also our town staff as well. I've sat through these now for 9 years and also on the fire board, and Mr. Logan's company also does the police and fire. So I thank everybody involved. We always seem to have a clean audit and have the answers to the questions that come up, whether it's about percentage debt and things like that. And we are going in the right direction as a town, so that's commendable for everybody. So I know a lot of hard work, a lot of numbers back and forth, and the meetings I was in was kind of just the tip of the iceberg for what you guys go through. So I just wanted to thank all of you for all your hard work and your teams involved as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Councillor Thompson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I would move that council accept the proposed Quispamsis 2021 financial audit as presented, and a copy be submitted to the province as required, and Mr. Logan and the town's finance department be thanked for their efforts in preparing the audited financial statements.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. It's been moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Bigger. On the question, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Once again, Mr. Logan, thank you very much. And thank you, Ms. Brandon, and to your team, and also to the Director of Community Services, Director of Engineering, and to the Acting CAO. It takes a team to get this together and to make your work, I'm sure, comfortably easy, as much as we can say that. So, so thank you very much.
Yes, okay.
Have
Thank
a
you
good
very
rest of
much.
your evening. Okay, we are now going to item number 6, public hearings. Rezoning application, Maple Ridge Estates, PID number 231928, Rugged Residential Inc., proposed Bearland condo cluster development off Corduroy Road, rural residential to multiple residential. In attendance, we have Mr. Andrew Toole of Donmore Surveys and Rob Vigor, owner of Rugged Residential. Welcome, Mr. Toole. Go ahead if you'd like to make your presentation.
So I believe you guys saw a presentation about a month ago of this. It is a, so I'm not going to go through a lot again. It was already explained. The intention is that this is 19 acres. It's pretty rugged land. So it's the same density. We're going to an R2 zone to allow a more sustainable development where we would cluster all of the units down in one corner and leave the rest of the much harder to develop land undeveloped. So it's the same density. There'd be a shared septic and shared wells. The condominium corporation protects kind of the town, if that makes sense, in the sense that there's a reserve fund to look after this infrastructure and maintain it, keep it. And I'm welcome to take questions, but I believe we've been through this once already.
Thank you. Before we go to council, I have a public hearing procedure that I am mandated to read. So the mayor acknowledges the council that we are here this evening. We have been requested to and plan to consider amending zoning bylaw number 38. Number 2, we have set this day and place for a public hearing. And number 3, notes that anyone wishing to speak for or against the proposed amendment will be heard and considered by council. Each person wishing to speak will approach the podium, identify themselves, and have a 5-minute timeline to address council. So we will have the presentation by the proponent. Those wishing to speak for or against the proposal shall be given the opportunity to be heard. I will ask 3 times if anyone further wishes to speak for or against the proposed amendment. Number 4, the proponent makes a final summation. Number 5, PAC's written views are read. Number 6, council members may ask questions. And number 7, a motion may be presented and voted upon. So now we will, I don't believe there's anyone online this evening. No, there is not. So you have made your presentation. I think we can move down. I do not have to ask 3 times, do I, Madam Clerk? That's our process. Okay. If there is anyone here who would like to speak for or against, please come forward. If there is anyone here who would like to speak for or against the proposed amendment, please come forward. If there is anyone here who would like to speak for or against the proposed amendment, please come forward. I do not see anyone. Are there any other comments that you would like to make in your final summation, either Mr. Bigger or Mr. Toole at this point in time? I will now ask that PAC's written views are read. Deputy Mayor Scryer.
Yes, Your Worship. Notice of decision from PAC to Rugged Residential Inc. Attention, Rob Bigger, 15 Corduroy Road, Quispamsis, New Brunswick. Take notice that a decision of the Quispamsis Planning Advisory Committee was rendered in the matter of your request pursuant to the provisions of the Community Planning Act of New Brunswick. 1. Matter requested. Council is seeking input from the Planning Advisory Committee in the rezoning of an 8.1 hectare portion of a 13 hectare total lot area of PID 00231928 from rural or multiple or R1 to multiple residential R2. 2. Date and of request, date April 12, 2022, Planning Advisory Committee meeting, Council Chambers. 3. Decision of committee that the Planning Advisory Committee support the Council in rezoning of the 8.1 hectare portion of the 13 hectare total lot area of PID 00231928 from rural or multiple residential for a bare land condominium development subject to the following terms and conditions. Number 1, Cargo Road must be constructed to a public street standard. 2, the private lane are always to be designated as per the National Building Code to ensure sufficient access to all units by emergency service personnel. 3, the development must be registered with the province as a condominium development under the Condominium Act. 4, the on-site sewage disposal system must be designed by a professional engineer as per the New Brunswick Technical Guidelines for on-site sewage disposal systems and the Department of Public Safety. 5, the completion of a comprehensive water source and supply assessment and undergo screening as it relates to the completion of environmental impact assessment. 6, the engineering design stormwater management plan and drainage system stamped by a registered professional engineer licensed to practice in the province of New Brunswick is to be completed and submitted for each phase of the development. Number 7, street lighting installation at the entrance of the development shall be installed. 8, all building lights to be downward directed. 9, all materials and equipment ordered on site are the responsibility of the developer. 10, the developer is to enter into a developer's agreement with the town of Quispamsis. 11, the land shall be developed in accordance with the most recently dated building and development plans filed with and approved by the town for each phase. 12, the total number of units is 19. units for the portion being proposed for the condominium development. 13, a review of the land for public purpose credit is to be undertaken prior to the final plan approvals to ensure land for public purpose obligation as it relates to the proposed development is found to be in compliance with the subdivision bylaw. If any additional land for public purpose requirements just want to read this again. If additional land for public purpose requirements need to be satisfied, the developer is to submit a proposal to PAC for review prior to final subdivision plan approval by council. And 14, if the development does not substantially proceed within 6 months of the date of approval for each phase, the developer shall restore the land to its attractive natural state, and such restoration is to be completed within 60 days. Number 4 is other. The Planning Advisory Committee support is only for the rezoning of portion of the 13-hectare property of PID 00231928 from rural or multiple residential for the bare land condominium development as outlined in the received plans. Further review of the PAC may be required as the development proceeds. Dated on this 14th day of April, 2022.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Scryer. Councillor Bigger,
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm prepared to make a motion if that's the appropriate time for that.
you may make a motion. or
I
you
would
can have-
move then that first reading be given to zoning bylaw amendment number 038-36 to rezone a portion of PID number 231928, 8.1 hectares off Corduroy Road from rural RU to multiple residential R2, subject to the terms and conditions of a Section 59 CPA agreement.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. It's been moved by Councillor Bigger, seconded by Councillor Olson. On the question,
Just on the question, Your
go
Worship.
ahead, Councillor Olson.
Yes, just clarification on 3.2. The private laneways are to be designed as per the National Building Code, not designated. Just for that clarification, it's written that way, but it was said that it was designated, so quite a bit of difference there in the two words. So I just wanted it to be properly recorded.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. Councillor Luck, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to our municipal planning officer, Mr. Colburn. I just have a quick question. It's more of a general question. I did go through our zoning bylaw and I just wanted clarity on what constitutes a rural zone versus a residential zone. Is it primarily just the size because it needs a septic, or a lot of people don't even know how their properties are zoned. So I'm just wondering if you could clarify that for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Colburn, please.
Through you, Your Worship, thank you for the question, Councillor Luck. So what the distinguishing factor would be that in a rural zone, the residential developments are mainly the minimum lot size is 1 acre, 4,000 square meters, to be able to support both on-site well and on-site septic. So when you get into R1 zoning, you're getting into usually servicing by municipal sewage, and in some cases servicing by both municipal water and sewage, which means the lot sizes can be smaller. In this particular case, the move towards R2 is because it's supporting a condominium development, which isn't a permitted use in the rural zone, so we have to rezone it to R2. Also in this case, because there isn't a municipal service in terms of water or sewer, then has been presented and has been provided for and supported by the PAC, is there has to be an engineered system. So the province has specific guidelines on how to design these systems, and that's what will be followed in this particular case to make sure it's engineered and it meets the provincial standards. So that's sort of the difference is lot size and how you can develop those lots in terms of the 1 acre size, making sure you have on-site septic and an on-site well.
Thank you, Mr. Colburn. Thank you, Councillor Luck. It has been moved by Councillor Bigger, seconded by Councillor Olson on the question. Please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Thank you very much. Thank you. Pardon me? Second reading for the motion, please. Councillor Bigger.
Yes, that's what I was, like me to give the second reading. I move second reading be given to zoning bylaw amendment number 038-36 to rezone a portion of PID number 231928, 8.1 hectares off Corduroy Road from rural RU to multiple residential R2, subject to the terms and conditions of a Section 59 CPA agreement.
It's been moved by Councillor Bigger, seconded by Councillor Thompson on the question. Councillor Olson, did you have a question? No. Please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Moving on to item number 7, minutes of the previous meeting. Councillor Miller, please.
Yes, I'd like to move that the minutes be approved as prepared.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. It's been moved by Councillor Miller, seconded by Deputy Mayor Scryer on the question. Please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Item number 8, unfinished business. Rezoning application, Andrew Dunn, George Queen property, 160 Pettingill Road, PID number 251462, single and two-family residential to multiple residential, proposed mixed-use residential development. And in attendance, we have Andrew Dunn and Mr. Queen. Okay, Mr. Dunn, would you mind coming to the podium, please? We have some questions. I don't know if you had further presentation to.
I'm ready for questions. Dwight did a great job preparing the proposal.
Are we okay with that? Yep. Okay. Councillor Thompson, please.
Your worship?
Go ahead, Councillor Thompson.
Okay. I move that council refer Mr. Andrew Dunn's proposed rezoning application to PAC for its written input and set a public hearing date for June 21st, 2022 at 6 p.m. and notify property owners within 100-meter radius of the property proposed for rezoning.
It's been moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Olson on the question. Councillor Luck, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think I'm directing this to the the municipal planning officer, I'm assuming, because our town engineer has stepped out. Is that correct? Okay. Again, I think it's wonderful. We absolutely need more development in our town. The one question I have is, over the last few months, we've seen a number of developments coming across our desk that's all kind of filtering out onto Pettingill. And when we do traffic studies, are they going to take into consideration that, that the traffic in the future hasn't happened yet because they're all kind of happening simultaneously? Just because I'm worried that Pettingill is going to become a pretty crazy street. So anyway, I'm just wondering if you could speak to that and, if there's any, mitigation plans for future kind of challenges that I foresee potentially happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Luck. Mr. Coburn.
Thank you, Your Worship, through Your Worship to Councillor Luck, and again, thank you for the question. So with these developments, we always want to look at the proposed density that's being proposed, and we always look at what are the access points. And with these multi-residential developments, the municipal plan, as I've indicated in my staff report, provide basically 5 elements that we look at. One of those is traffic and coming off of either collector streets or arterials, so you don't have to navigate through local streets to access. So in this particular case, you're coming off the Pettingill Road, and as part of this process, a traffic impact study will be required. And what that will look at, it will look at the current traffic patterns. So there'll be studies done in terms of usually put cameras at the intersections, and then over a series of days, they look at the traffic volumes and fluctuations and patterns. We usually want those done sort of at the times when you would anticipate the peak traffics. So when you have schools involved and those types of things, so you get a true reflection of the traffic patterns. And we also look at what is the vacant lands within that areas that could potentially flow into those intersections and those collector streets. So when we enter into sort of the scope of the work for these traffic studies, we usually provide the consultants with what we anticipate in terms of full build-outs. So we usually give them provisions of any tentative plans that have been approved, any conceptual plans, any developments that may be in the process. So for example, just recently, council approved the one at 124 Pettingill Road. So now that would be brought into this traffic study. We would look at the schools, we would look at further developments that have been approved through the Southwood neighborhood. So when you get up into Grafton and all those areas, all that stuff will be taken into consideration. So and then there's usually a factor applied as well. So it's not just a simple, looking at what's happening at this particular moment. It's what's happening in the bigger scopes. All that we take into consideration. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Miller, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Actually, mine was a little bit of a tag on to Councillor Luck's. When I look at that, through to you, Your Worship, to Mr. Colburn, kind of to that same vein, because I look at, currently we've already have one approved on that side. This is another proposal for this side, and Heritage continues to grow. Are we looking at planning on widening Pettingill, potentially putting sidewalks on that side from the close to the elementary school all the way up? It's kind of, I guess it's in a planning where you've got everybody come out and again, without getting in, we'll see the presentation with the public, but this one's coming out right at Southwood, where kind of a blind old, turning right you're okay, but turning left. So is there ways like you see when people go onto the highway where you kind of got one lane where you can go out a bit and go up? Anyways, it's just kind of I think this was our third busiest street, and I don't think it's changed. So I think it's continuing to be high up there, number 3. So just, I guess, for future planning. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Was there anything further you wanted to add to that, or?
So Your Worship, one of the other exciting things that we have going on is our transportation master plan. So that's looking at these streets as well. So that, as part of that process, we are also providing them with these types of projects that are on the books. So they also can look at that. So in terms of if we need to provide other provisions for pedestrians crossings, we get cyclists in there now. So do we need to put in left turn lane movements, where do they go? All of that will be part of this process. So, and if it's identified, then we will work with the developer and move that forward. So, so there's a number of wheels that are actually turning, and all those things come together.
Thank you, Mr. Colburn. Deputy Mayor Scryer.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, to Mr. Dunn. Will you just clarify for me again, just so I have it clear in my mind, how many units you're looking at putting in? How many are single residential? How many are multiple residential? And how many stories they are? If you could just review that for me, I would appreciate it.
No problem. There would be 48 rental apartments that would be ground level on a slope, so everyone would be able to access or be completely accessible units for rent. And then there'd be 7 to 9 single family homes and roughly 14 semi-detached homes.
Have you applied to CMHC for any of the units to be low income?
No.
And are any of the units going to be wheelchair accessible?
Yes, they all will be.
They all will be. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The motion has been moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Olson. On the question, please vote now. Deputy Mayor? GCS. Motion carried 7-0. Thank you very much. Item number 9, correspondence. Bill McElroy, Ritchie Lake Sediment, and B is Councillor Noel Donovan, request for investigation of a bylaw to regulate rideshare services such as Uber and Lyft. So item number A. Deputy Mayor Scryer, please.
Yes, Your Worship. I would like to put a motion forward regarding the concerns of the residents, and my motion would read that the town of Quispamsis apply to the Environmental Trust Fund to undertake a study to monitor sediment, erosion control, and water levels for Ritchie Lake, and steps to be taken to protect the lake in partnership with the town of Quispamsis. Additionally, that letters be sent to Premier Higgs and the Minister of the Environment asking for support for our application.
It's been moved by Deputy Mayor Scryer. I'm going to have the motion read, seconded by Councillor Bigger, please. Would you please read the motion?
Your Worship. It was moved by Councillor Bigger, Deputy Mayor Schreier. Seconded by Councillor Bigger. That the town apply for environmental trust funding to undertake a study to monitor the sediment and erosion controls at Ritchie Lake and what measures can be taken to protect the lake, and letters be sent to Premier Higgs and the Minister of Environment regarding the town's application.
Thank you, Ms. Snow. There was a motion on that item prior to. There was a proposed motion. Okay. Okay. On the question. Councillor Bigger.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to say I'm appreciative of the Deputy Mayor's insight on that and her concern as being part of the Climate Change Committee. I read with interest and concern the views expressed by the resident, and it's, you know, there's an irony in the fact that we just finished discussing another development on Pettengill that, you know, sort of broaches Ritchie Lake, and yet now we're discussing this situation. But so I think that that's a very insightful plan of action. So I just want to add an underline to my seconding of that. So thank you.
Councillor Miller, please.
Thank you, Worship. I don't really know who to direct this one to, but when you, we know it's been a problem for a few years that we've been here and nothing's been fixed, for lack of better, and I know it's out of our control. But also when you read the letters, the silt now is substantial versus what it was. Is there any way that the province, and I'm kind of looking at Deputy Mayor if she knows, the province can order them to come in or they have the ability to clean some of that up? Because, I mean, I know when I used to go there as a kid, I'm talking a long time ago, but it wasn't silt. Now it's pretty much that way. So to kind of bring it back to what it used to be, because even when you go swimming now where we've got our beach, the last time I took my kids was long time ago, but it was like mud going through there. So you want to get out so far, then you wanted to tread water so you didn't have to touch bottom. So I don't know if there's any remediation that can be done by the province or the feds. So just a question.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Councillor Luck, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I am in support of the motion. My question would be, how long will requesting potential funding and an assessment take? And is there an opportunity in the interim to look at any type of mitigation strategies? I know the original proposal had asked about, I don't have it anymore, it's been updated, but it talked about reaching out to the province to basically see what could be done. And I'm just wondering if we could add to that motion that there is kind of something that happens in the interim, just because I would hate for us to sit on this, because I know things tend to sometimes take a while. So while we request funding and while we look for an environmental assessment, it might take, I guess depending on how long it takes, I'd like to see us do something sooner than later in terms of mitigating any further impact on Ritchie Lake, if the deputy mayor would be open to adding that to the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Luck. Director Loge, would I be correct in saying that bodies of water are under the responsibility of the provincial government and that we may not be able to get anything done until we hit their timeline, or they are available?
Your Worship, that's one of the things that we've investigated in the past. I think if some of the councillors have been here for a while, we've had inquiries about boats on Ritchie Lake and what we can't and can't permit, and it's always gone back to the fact that the major water courses fall under the provincial jurisdictions. And to the point with regards to erosion protection, sediment control, there are different levels of authority that we have to be able to follow. And for us, as a municipality, we deal with those public right-of-ways, development, but once you get onto private property, then that falls under the provincial jurisdiction, and they decide if it's serious enough. If you remember in the spring, we had one of the developers where we actually had the Department of the Environment issue stop work order until and that was beyond the control of the town. So until the developer met the terms and conditions and the guidelines that they had set. But when you look at the property now, it doesn't seem to be that much significant difference, but it's acceptable to the province. So ultimately, we have to be able to make sure that we are prepared to work with whatever the province deems acceptable. To the Deputy Mayor's request with regards to a study, we may also argue that fertilizer or road salt or any other contaminations is significantly more critical to the habitat of the lake itself. So I think we really want to step back and look at a proper comprehensive review of Ritchie Lake, if that's going to be the crown jewel of the community, how are we going to protect it beyond just sediment and erosion impacts. But it does fall back to the provincial timeline. One, because we recognize that the Environmental Trust Fund grants are not assessed until November and won't be awarded until next year. Two, that they may require some level of contribution by the municipality as a match-up for these environmental trust funds. So we've got to assess it in our own budget, and that's not going to come cheap. And three, we're undertaking our own subdivision bylaw and guidelines review that we are looking to introduce additional specifications to deal with the developers. So these things all sort of come together and how we want to handle it. So an immediate remediation is not likely, to be frank. What we have to do is focus on the issues at hand that we can see, observe, and control through our bylaws, and then urge the action of the province if it's beyond our jurisdiction. That's the unfortunate side of this, is that we've stepped up our requirements of developers every year, and to Councilor Miller's point, and Councilor Olson's point, you keep seeing this happen every spring. And even when we're asking for these standards, they meet it. All it takes is a developer or a builder to forget a hay bale, or the ice crushes a hay bale, they don't get there in time, and one spring freshet, and you've got that impact. So we have to, we've got to look at that comprehensive approach for Ritchie Lake when we do it. And it may not be a timeline that is immediate, but I think what we would want to do is continually strive to get that next level of protection to Ritchie Lake. And I think the motion is sound, and the intent is proper. It's we want to frame our expectations and our application for appropriately, so that we can get the biggest bang for the shared buck, whatever that might be in the fall.
Thank you, Director Logier. And I think there was an amendment to the motion. Councillor Buck, was it? Yes. Do you agree with the amendment? Yes, please.
There. So, moved by Deputy Mayor Schreier, seconded by Councillor Bigger. The town applied for environmental trust funding to undertake a study to monitor the sediment and erosion control on Ritchie Lake and what measures can be taken to protect the lake. And letters be sent to Premier Higgs and the Minister of Environment, advising them of the town's application. And in the interim, discuss with the respective provincial and federal enforcement agencies where increased erosion and sedimentation protection measures and standards should be considered, and how would these measures be introduced. That was from Mr. Logier's staff report. That was from Mr. Logier's staff report, the second of Deputy Mayor's
Okay.
motion.
All right. Deputy Mayor Schreier.
I'm fine with the amendment. The intent of the motion is to get moving on Ritchie Lake and get some studies done, so we have some benchmarking, that we have everybody on board.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. So it's been moved by Deputy Mayor Schreier, seconded by Councillor Bigger on the question. Please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Item number B, Councillor Noah Donovan, request for investigation of a bylaw to regulate rideshare services such as Uber and Lyft. And this is an item that has come up various times with St. John, which I believe last night they did pass their share ride, and it's also been part of the envision moving forward to provide transportation. Councillor Donovan.
Thank you. I won't read my letter in full, as it has been included in the agenda package. However, I will reiterate my opinion that the ride-sharing model could be a valuable amenity to this community. St. John Common Council also acknowledged this, and at their meeting last evening approved third and final reading. Quoting our regional growth agency, it's critical that we adopt ride-sharing bylaws across the region to demonstrate that we are a cohesive area with people living, working, and playing across communities. It's no secret that there is a shortage of transportation options throughout the Kennebecasis Valley. Given this, I believe it would be prudent for council to allow staff to review this bylaw further and come forward with more information. This is our chance to embrace new and innovative ideas that are working well in other municipalities across Canada to ensure that we are not left behind. And in saying that, I would like to make a motion to suggest, or that the suggestion of drafting a ride-sharing bylaw be referred to town staff to review as a regional approach with the neighboring communities, acknowledging that the City of St. John recently adopted a ride-sharing bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Donovan. It's been moved by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Deputy Mayor Schreier. On the question, Deputy Mayor Scribe?
Thank you, Your Worship. My question is regarding the bylaw. So I'm not quite sure if would this be an amendment to a bylaw or would this be a brand-new bylaw?
Your Worship, we have a taxi bylaw, but I would imagine this would be a brand-new bylaw because of the regional approach we want to take. There is a version of the bylaw floating from the city that was been brought to the regional communities that we've been looking at. So it would likely be a brand new because you would cover a whole different aspect of it. It has insurance requirements, things of that nature, so.
Thank you, Mr. Logier. Councillor Bigger, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I guess that actually, Mr. Lozier's answer kind of satisfies what I was going to ask. I just was going to ask for a little more expanded thought on regional strategy as it pertains to ride sharing. And, would there be, is there appetite? Is there noted appetite? I guess that's what Councillor Donovan's bringing forward, is that there has been expressed appetite by the city of St. John to see this work as a regional strategy. But if they've given third reading to a bylaw, how do we sort of cooperate with that, with our current bylaws? But as Director Lozier says, we're probably looking at, investigating and probably bringing forward a whole new bylaw on that. So, thank you.
Mr. Kennedy, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. And those discussions have already started in earnest at the regional CAO level. There's a lot of meetings going on that include all the regional municipalities around Greater St. John. The mayor mentioned about how Envision, the Regional Growth Agency, is a part of this as well. And just from a simple logistical perspective, it comes down to if someone picks up a ride share in St. John, if we don't have a bylaw in Quispamsis, are they able to get off in Quispamsis? And to make it more of a regional perspective, if we do have a bylaw in Quispamsis, but they don't in Rossay, can you literally drive through Rossay to get to Quispamsis without that bylaw in place? So there is a lot of cohesion that has to happen, and we've been in contact with the city throughout their process, and certainly we're aware of their bylaws, so we're not going to be starting from scratch as well. So we're looking forward to making this work, and I wholeheartedly agree with everything Councillor Donovan had in his presentation, that this is a regional approach that will benefit everyone within Greater St. John. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. So the motion has been made by Councillor Donovan, seconded by Deputy Mayor Scryer. On the question, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Item number 10, bylaws. I do not see anything listed there. New business. Down to reports. Motion there, please. Councillor Miller.
Move to receive and file.
It's been moved by Councillor Miller, seconded by Councillor Donovan. On the question, Councillor Bigger, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just take note of item C, Asian Heritage Month for the month of May. And I just want to extend good wishes to all of our residents and friends of Asian descent, and I wish them a great Asian Heritage Month. And I look forward to opportunities to learn more about our many cultures here in our town, and especially with a focus in the month of May for Asian Heritage Month. So just thought it was worth mentioning. Thank you.
Certainly is worth mentioning. Thank you very much, Councillor Bigger. So it's been moved by, Councillor Miller, seconded by Councillor Donovan. On the question, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Business arising from Committee of the Whole. Don't think there is none. Looking for an adjournment. I'm looking for everyone to find joy in their coming week. It's been moved by Councillor Olson, seconded by Deputy Mayor Scryer, on the question, please vote now. Motion carried 7-0. Have a good night, everyone. Enjoy the nice weather that we've been experiencing. Take care. Drive safe.
Thank you, Libby.